Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening. Welcome to being here. I'm Ariel.
I'm Shaya, and today we're talking about taking care without being careful.
As in full of worries, doubts, being overly cautious. You can trust yourself.
That's right.
Let's listen to that as a possibility. Put that on as a hypothesis.
Hypothesis. Hypothesis is where you take on an idea to prove that it's true.
Yes, to prove that it's true. But in order to do that, you have to set down the idea that you can't, or that you're full of problems that are unsolvable. You know, problem solution framework is always going to create another problem and another problem.
So for every solution, you create more problems. So our approach is not problem solution based. Our approach is based in listening, in being here, in discovering the moment rather than trying to figure out how the future will turn out better than you are afraid it might not. How's that?
It's about bringing your awareness and attention to what is
in the current moment, rather than worry about a future that hasn't gotten here yet.
Yes.
Rather than trying to get the future to turn out the way you want it to, it's about letting your life show up the way it wants to.
You know, I realize that it's a challenge to have life show up the way it wants to. If you're holding on to a vendetta, for instance, with, say, your mom or your dad, where you're proving that they did you wrong, then if life starts to blossom,
they couldn't have done it wrong if life turns out.
So then you almost have to skew it into being problematic again, because
right, because then they wouldn't be wrong.
That would just be awful.
That would be horrible.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
No,
yeah.
that. Okay.
Sounds like my cousin Vinny. Okay.
Let's take our first guest. Why not?
Renata.
Welcome to being here. Where are you zooming in from?
Hi, here's Renate. I'm zooming in from Bern, Switzerland.
Welcome. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you. Nice being with you.
How is life in Bern, Switzerland?
Oh, life is great in Bern, Switzerland.
Oh, nice.
Maybe
nice to hear.
Yeah.
So go there then.
Yeah. I just spent the day with kids. I was working in the daycare. And yeah, care.
What kind of what age group is at the daycare that you work?
There are kids between like 3 months and 4 to 5 years. Like something. Yeah. They start as a baby and then they grow up, and when they go to kindergarten, mostly they don't come to daycare anymore.
Right. So that's the end of your journey with them.
Yeah. So at the moment, it is the case that in summer, a lot of the older kids were leaving, and we have a lot of young kids now at the daycare. And this is quite challenging sometimes.
What makes it challenging?
We have today we had 4 babies, and they all want to eat and sleep and be taken care of, and so sometimes I'm there and I doubt that I can that I can do my work all right with all these tasks that have to be done somehow. So
well,
yeah.
You know, I'd be willing to bet, Renata, that conversation happens elsewhere as well as at work. That you have similar conversations, no matter what the task at hand. That it would be better if it was less complex.
You know, I love that you said that, Chad, because I realize over the years, Shai and I do a lot of courses. You know, we have one coming up in April in Hamburg, and several courses there. We do the Freedom to Breathe on April 18th, and then the Simplicity course the 19th through the 21st, and then we have an evening seminar. So when we're preparing to go, we need to bring all the supplies. We need to, we have to make sure we pack shoes. We have to bring clothing, all the items. And it's complex. So whilst it's not for babies, it's still there's a complexity to it.
Yeah, there's the complexity of travel, airplanes,
Getting
hotels, getting everything together so that it all works.
So what happens is, as I'm preparing to do something, or I'm in the midst of, say, packing or pulling together all the supplies or contacting the people I need to speak with, I sometimes have the thought, oh my God, this is too much. And then I realize that is an old tape. It's an old loop. It's an old conversation. And if I stop and take a look, I always get everything done. It always is seamless. It never doesn't get done. I am accomplished.
And capable.
So I can either invest my attention into that conversation, which serves to stress me, which may be the point, or I can just get on with what I'm up to.
And here's the other thing. No two things can occupy you at the same time. So you can either worry about how it's going to turn out, which takes away from your ability to get things done in the current moment.
Correct.
Because no two things can occupy you at the same time. So if you're worrying about a future that hasn't happened, then you're not fully engaged in what you're doing, and it takes longer, and there's a greater possibility of mistakes.
It's interesting, Renato, when you lay out the picture of the 4 babies who all want to eat, sleep, and be taken care of.
Hey, when they want to sleep, leave them.
but that's just like that's like me saying, oh, I have to pack for this trip. It's like having your whole to-do list in front of you. But I guarantee you, when you're in the room, even if all 4 of them are hungry, if you look, it's obvious which child you need to attend to first, or how you can handle it. It's always obvious if you're there for it, but it's less obvious if you're complaining about your capabilities.
What kicked in with me is I forgot about the lunch. We have, besides all this work with the kids, we have to prepare lunch, and we were late with lunch, which isn't a tragedy, but I had to even call the one of the leaders of the daycare. I had to call her. She was sitting in the office, and I had to call and had to say, you have to come and help. We are like, we don't get this done. We don't get all this done. So, and that was a bit, I felt like I failed.
So question, because maybe that our sound is canceling over each other.
Well, maybe our sound is canceling over each other, but I asked you, how many are the we? How many people work with you in the daycare center?
We were 3 people this morning.
Plus the person that you had to call?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Or including the person that you had to call?
Yes, including the person I had to call. We were 3 people that were working with the kids and preparing lunch and everything. And the person I had to call was the fourth. Okay. With her, we were 4.
What I find so interesting is your need to complain.
I mean, this is an entirely different subject matter than the last time we spoke to you, whether it's complaining about your relationship or complaining about where you work or other coworkers. It's like, if you have a propensity to complain, then whatever the circumstances are will slot in there. And like you said, it's not a tragedy if you're a little late. And even when you said that you had to call the owner or the head of the daycare who's sitting in her office, and you have to help us because it's basically too much work. Even the way you present it is like a complaint instead of like, hey, Ariel, you got a moment? Can you come give us a hand? We're a little behind. We could really use the help. Is a very different approach than a complaint about yourself, complain about them. I'm getting interested in your
Well, how much time you spend complaining about what is, and how much time you get interested in engaging in what is.
Mm.
You know, you can either complain about the circumstances of your life, or you can notice them.
Mm.
You know, look, I am 83 years of age. Most people my age are lost in a complaint about their age. I am not. Now, if you choose to complain about the circumstances of your life, I can do nothing for you. See, this is really up to you, Renata. Really, it is. You can either step into the complaint compartment, or you can step out of that compartment. It's really up to you. As soon as you realize you're going into a complaint, what you're doing is saying, this moment in my universe is showing up wrong because I say it's wrong, not because it's wrong, but I am determined to be miserable if it doesn't turn out the way I want. That's like saying to the sun, I mean, really, it's 7:03 a.m. You should be up by now. When it hasn't gotten past the horizon yet. It won't be past the horizon till 7:10 a.m.
Mm.
So complaining that it isn't there yet doesn't produce anything other than make you miserable when you disagree with the way your life is showing up.
I just realized that I really managed the situation very well.
But
yes, but then you tend to collapse back into complaint.
you may have managed the situation very well, but what you presented was not that I managed the situation. You know, I had a lot of things happening today, but I got them all done and it was so much fun. That wasn't what you presented. What you said was everything was wrong, and I had to call my boss in her office and tell her she should be here helping us.
Yeah, I just realized in this conversation that I really, in reality, I managed well. I just realized with this conversation here.
Yes, and I asked the question, what is the purpose of presenting life being difficult when it wasn't? Well, who should I ask?
I know she, for those of you who cannot see her, she just did a big exaggerated shrug. They can't see you. You gotta use your words.
Yes.
Use your words.
I was somehow embarrassed that I had to admit that I have to call my boss and she has to help me. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know.
Well, you know, it doesn't matter where it comes from.
Yeah,
What matters is,
yes.
what matters is you see that you have a situation that needs certain things to happen to resolve the situation. And then you do those things. After it's done, you can feel bad or good or embarrassed or whatever you want. But the babies need to be changed. They need to be fixed, fed, you know, that's what needs to happen. So, you know, you do it.
I keep getting this image. We had a friend once who was a world-class horseback rider. And she had a challenge because however it happened, she actually had one side of her body that was physically shorter than the other. In her torso, you could actually see how her back was twisted and how if she just kind of took her awareness away from it, that one shoulder was lower. And so when she sat on a horse, if she wasn't paying attention, she looked crooked. And so she had to bring attention to being upright. And then she could compete and she could execute the moves in a way that looked pleasing and was pleasing to herself. However, it happened in your growing up time, that tendency to collapse into a complaint about yourself or complaint about others is what got bred in there. It's kind of like having a shorter side. But all you have to do is bring attention to it and bring yourself back to center. And you cannot expect that the short side is now going to grow long. It's there. But with awareness, you can bring yourself here and centered and available. And
if you look, this complaint factor that was programmed into you at a young age, it's up to you at the age you are to be able to override that conditioning so that your life becomes satisfying and fulfilling. Because you see, here's the thing, Renata, it's not only about work. This attitude of complaint goes everywhere and it will destroy your relationship.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
yeah,
Well,
that's exciting, actually.
that's the
Be-
good
it's like,
news,
woo!
because if you see it, you can do something about it. If you just automatically complain, then Esther cannot do anything right enough.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you certainly don't want to destroy this relationship that's been the best you've ever had.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
You know, it's
I
really
agree.
if you've been enculturated, trained to add stress, and it's like your panini machine, you know, that makes a success sandwich. You got to add a little stress spice. And but you know, maybe your body doesn't like spice anymore. Maybe you need the sandwich without the stress.
I have to get used to it.
You do. You have to be willing for it.
You have to get used to it, maybe. There's also the possibility that something new can show up.
You mean instantaneous transformation?
I mean, instantaneous transformation. What you're talking about is incremental change. I have to get to it. No, you can just be transformed.
Yeah, that sounds good.
You know, I imagine that your boss went into childcare because she likes children. And so who knows? You're saying, hey, can you give us a hand today?
Man,
if
that
you
might
don't
give
beat on
her-
yourself as a gift.
Yeah, it might be a gift for her. So she has a break in her normal routine of doing the books.
Yeah, that might well be.
Sweet.
Look, if you have fun with what you're doing, you don't need to complain about what you're doing. It's only if you're not having fun. I have a mechanic who works on my Suburban truck. Okay. Now, I've known this fellow since he's 16 years old. I moved here about 25 years ago. So
he's a middle-aged man.
He's a middle-aged man now. And all he does is complain that he has to work. I see him as this brilliant genius of a guy who can fix almost anything mechanically. And he's complaining that he has to do what he loves to do. Because when I met him, he'd be working in this garage after school. He'd go there after high school to work and learn how to do this stuff.
And now he runs the garage.
And yet he complains as though, so he robs himself of the joy and satisfaction of doing what he wants to do. And I imagine you want to work where you work.
Yes, I love it.
You love working with kids.
Yes, I do.
You can rob yourself of that by finding anything to complain about.
Primarily about yourself.
Yeah, that's true. So thank you.
Maybe this is the kindness year. We've been talking about kindness a lot, being kind to ourselves. Yes. So you got a little behind today. You needed your boss's support. Big whoop. Big deal, not a big deal. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
thank
welcome.
you. Sweet being with you today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alrighty then. Drum roll, please. You sound like our cat. It's time for our listener feedback spotlight while Shai is here purring with me. We get to hear from one of our listeners
About how transformation has impacted their lives. And if you'd like to learn more or register for any of our upcoming courses, visit transformationmadeeasy.com.
Yeah.
And when I say easy, it's like the fire swamp.
Yeah, join us.
If you know your way through it, it's easy. If you have a good guide, it's easy. If you don't, well, there's rodents of unusual size. There's lightning sand.
all
What's the other
those.
thing?
I don't remember.
Oh, and the fire spurts.
There you
Right.
go.
There you go.
We're great
Transformation made easy.
Hi, I'm Franziska from Germany, Hamburg, and the canes inspired me to turn off my life from being sad and miserable to blossom, to be in the moment and enjoy everything that my life shows up with.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel & Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We have several Living Made Easy 2-hour seminars coming up in the week ahead. This Saturday, next Monday, and then the Tuesday evening in the European time zone is also the translated Tuesday evening that happens once a month. You can find out what's happening and what fits in your time zone at transformationmadeeasy.com should you wish to join us for one of these 2 hours events.
And what fits in your schedule?
The weekends we have coming up, the first is the power of listening, March 2nd and 3rd.
It's a virtual seminar. So wherever you are on our lovely planet, you can join us.
We have people who often tune in and join us for weekends from as far away as Hong Kong and Australia. It's during the middle of the night there, and they always really enjoy themselves. So wherever you are on our amazing planet, you are most welcome. As we mentioned earlier, we're coming to Hamburg, Germany.
For the Freedom to Breathe on April 18th and Simplicity, April 19th, 20th, and 21st.
Everything's simple when you're here for it.
That's right.
So if you'd like to join us, you can find out more at transformationmadeeasy.com. And while you're there, if you haven't done it already, feel free to sign up for our newsletter. All right. Miss Daniela, welcome to being here. Tell people where you are zooming in from.
Hi, today I'm zooming in from Euskirchen in Germany.
Euskirchen.
Euskirchen. I always try to wrap my mind around and my mouth around that word. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm zooming in because taking care resonated with me. In combination of what you said to me in a Living Made Easy seminar, where I was talking how I treated Krishna a little bit bad, but somehow it turned out that how I treated myself badly during those times.
And
So-
Christian's your
Chris-
husband, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, well, what I took away from what you said to me at this Living Made Easy seminar was, Daniela, be kind to yourself. And after that, I started to see how often I am not, or I was not. And I like,
So let me stop you there. You know, what you're talking about is freeing yourself from your mechanical nature. You know, you do things automatically sometimes, and they may not be in your best interest.
Mm,
But when you see that you are doing them, if you don't punish yourself, but just see it,
mm,
it completes itself. So that if you realize you have what your voice in your head was not kind to you about something, if you just notice it, it's over. If you beat on yourself and think, oh, I should have,
mm,
well, then it continues.
yeah.
So this is about discovering how to resolve issues that have run your life
Mm,
simply just by seeing them, not doing anything to make decisions about how you're going to be going forward in time.
You know, you must have really been looking. And I really love that. One of the things that happens when you become aware of something like, oh, gee, I've been being hard on myself, is you tend to start seeing it everywhere. It's like, oh my goodness,
Our,
everywhere.
our definition of awareness is a non-judgmental seeing of the way you're being or of what is. Well, if you see that you've been picking on yourself and your thoughts, that's enough for it to end if you just notice it.
mm.
If you notice it and make yourself wrong for it, you'll keep on doing it.
Yeah, and the fun thing is, the similar things that you just said now, you said to me and to others so many times.
Yes.
And often I thought, I hear them, I understand their English, but then I go back to my life and I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm not sure what they're saying. And now it was different. It was like, oh, okay, here is a thought, and oh, okay, here is a thought. So it comes aware from me when, and
Very good. You know,
yeah.
I'm really enjoying your saying that because it's become obvious to me that you're looking, and that's all it takes is looking.
Mm,
If you see it and don't judge it, but just notice it as a phenomena,
mm, mm,
and you leave you out of it, you don't make yourself right or wrong for noticing it. You just notice it. It nullifies it.
mm,
It makes as if it has no power over your life.
mm.
And if you're nice to you, you're going to be nice to Christian. Sophia. You're going to be nice to your mother. But if you're not nice, you're going to pick on them the same way you pick on yourself.
I really love that you mentioned that you've heard these things being said many times, but at some point it just dropped in as a actionable piece of information rather than, okay, I kind of get the concept, or yeah, I heard that. We were talking about it last week in the last episode called For the Very First Time, how you can go, oh yeah, I've heard that, to avoid actually hearing the information. And I think it's quite wonderful when you hear something brand new. I often use Pilates, which is a form of exercise that I like to do. I would go to Pilates. I'd get headaches after Pilates for years. And they used to say this thing, anchor your shoulders. And I'd be, okay, yeah, my shoulders anchor. And then when I realized what they meant was like, take your shoulders you kind of like roll your shoulder back so they're in a relaxing and then drop them. When you just are in this kind of natural position, you don't add tension to your shoulders and neck. And I realized once, years into it, what anchor my shoulders actually meant. My printer is saying yes, yes, yes. And I stopped getting headaches. I was creating problems for myself that I didn't even know. And then, so I could either go back and go, ah, look at how I did it wrong all the time, or go, oh, so that's what that means.
And a thought just popped in my head, and you know, when you, let's say, when I take the time to see, yeah, then I see and I realize when I can be not nice. And the thought that I had is like, oh my God, it can't be that simple. Because I think my go-to behavior is, it must be difficult, it must be hard, it must be challenging, and maybe something that I never reach, or something between those lines.
Daniela, that's why we're doing the simplicity course in Hamburg in April, because it can be simple. It doesn't have to be complex and difficult.
And that's why we do Living Made Easy. Love that. I really feel you are articulating so many people who listen to this. Can it really be that easy? Yes, it can.
And look, we've all grown up in a world where nothing has been easy. So why should this be easy? That's what we say in our heads. But see, if you keep on going down a one-way street, you never realize that there's another way to do it.
Yeah.
And you've been used to doing it the hard way. And you get it done. You're really accomplished, but you whip yourself all the way along, as though the whipping is what's getting it done. But if you're kind to yourself, you might be shocked to discover you get more done with less effort when you're nice to you than when you're hard on yourself. Because you have to recover from those unkind remarks.
And I would like to add is that if it gets, when it gets easier, you also have more time at your hand. And then the question is, oh my God, what can you do with this time?
That's right. Right. You're so, look, you're a very, very intelligent lady. Because what you just said was brilliant. That if you have time, you have to fill the time.
Uh-oh.
And
see, that's a little frightening. That's a little frightening too.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Daniela, you're the best.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, I just enjoy you.
Are you having more fun with Christian now that you're being kind to yourself?
Yeah. And yes, I am. And what's also nice, and I would like to say that I appreciate myself for it, is that I can see when maybe he's not in his center anymore, and then I look and see, oh my God, was it something that I said? And usually it is, because he is a guy who is very often his center, or always friendly to me, even if maybe he's not friendly to himself, but when I approach him, he's always friendly to him. So this is how I perceive him. And when we are together, and then sometimes I'm thinking, okay, when he came in, he was really friendly. Now he's not. What happened? And sometimes I have to do something with it, and then I pick it up and be friendly for him.
Well,
Slow down. It's
slow
too
down a
good to
little
go this
bit.
fast.
Right. See,
Yeah.
how about this?
Mm.
Every time it has something to do with you.
Yeah, true.
And it's usually when you disregard him, when he says something, you're busy, you don't listen to him.
And he's a very
Sensitive.
sensitive
He's a
human
very,
being.
very sensitive man. And so when he gets disregarded, he gets tight. He shrinks away like a little boy.
Hmm.
Yeah, spot on. Yes. Yes.
And he becomes what you don't really enjoy.
Yes. True.
So look, by
Yeah.
being kind to yourself, you can be kind to him. And being kind to him is actually listening to him.
Mm.
That's very kind. And it will look, most people's relationships have rough edges. If you listen to Christian, like when he's talking, that's all you do,
Mm.
not think about where you wanted to go. Stay with what he's saying.
Yeah.
Your relationship will soar. It will
Mm.
be amazing,
Mm.
but it requires you
Mm.
listening and not much more than that.
Mm.
Listening is enough.
Yeah.
And listening isn't going somewhere.
Mm.
See, you're frequently going somewhere.
Ah. Mm.
Sweet,
Really.
sweet. I love that you asked us a question during Living Made Easy.
Mm.
We had a
Interaction.
brief conversation because it's a shorter event and there's a lot of people and that it sparked something in you. You went away and you've had this whole revelation between you and you that's very, very inspiring. Because I think sometimes people think, oh, it's only 2 hours. Should I come? Why should I do it? Look at this.
It only takes a moment, you see. If you get into the moment, so you had to have been there because you really saw the essence of what we were saying and it like lit up your life. It illuminated
Mm.
the behavior that's been in the dark kind of. And so now you don't see you do see the obstacles and you can avoid them rather than bump over them.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
I used to use that as an analogy over years ago. I forgot about it. That if you were in a dark room
Mm.
and there was furniture in this dark room and you
Yeah.
try to walk across the room, you bump into the furniture.
Yeah.
But if you turn on a light, you never have to bump into the furniture.
Most of us erroneously think we have to get rid of all the furniture in our room rather than just know where it's placed and walk around it.
Mm.
Like the propensity to be hard on yourself. Oops, I see that. I'm not sitting in that chair. That chair, I'll sit there and beat on myself. Yeah.
Mm.
Nice. Hey, thanks for being with us
Yeah,
today.
yeah, thank you.
I guarantee you a lot of listeners saw themselves in you.
Mm.
Yes, so thanks for being so generous with your life.
Mhm.
Mm. You're so welcome.
Ah,
As we were speaking with Daniela today,
yes,
I realized that we have several amazing books out there,
yes.
and we rarely talk about them anymore. There's a chapter in Being Here Too, where Leah talks about recognizing how her way of being made a big difference in how her now husband, Andy, was being, that she hadn't recognized that she'd been doing things that were hurtful.
Well, what she did was recognize it and then transform.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we have
In
some,
an instant.
we have some great books out there.
Yeah, we encourage you, if you haven't read any of them, or if you have them on your Kindle, or
And if you haven't read them in a while, it might not be a bad idea to take another look.
yeah, pick a page, any page.
Any page,
Yeah.
right?
All right. So you can subscribe to this podcast. You could share it with your friends, and You can find all our courses and our newsletter link at transformationmadeeasy.com.
Next week's podcast, simplicity.
Yeah, it is simple. So thanks to our guests today. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week.
So come on back.
Don't miss
Being here.